Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most debated topics in history, the moon landing. Was it real or was it faked? It's a question that has lingered in the minds of some, fueled by conspiracy theories and shadows of doubt. But you know me, I'm all about evidence, facts, and the awesome power of science. So, buckle up as we blast off on a mission to uncover the truth. We're going to explore the top 10 facts that definitively prove the moon landing was not faked. Get ready to have your doubts debunked and your mind blown wide open by the sheer brilliance of human ingenuity and the undeniable reality of our celestial journey to the moon. Let's do this. Let's start with the most tangible evidence we have, the stuff we left on the moon. I'm talking about the lunar module descent stages, still sitting there on the lunar surface. These are massive pieces of equipment, and they're not the only things up there. We're talking rovers, footprints, and various other pieces of equipment, all meticulously documented and photographed. There's no wind or atmosphere, meaning those footprints and rover tracks aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They're expected to last for millions of years. The sheer amount of evidence, spread out over multiple landing sites, is staggering. Just point a powerful enough telescope at the moon, and there it is. Astronauts weren't just sightseeing on the moon. They brought back souvenirs. Not snow globes or keychains, but something far more valuable: moon rocks. Over the course of several missions, they brought back hundreds of pounds of lunar rocks and soil. Now, these aren't your average Earth rocks. They have a unique composition and structure due to the moon's different geological history. Scientists around the world have had the chance to study these rocks, and their findings have been consistent. These rocks are definitively not from Earth. They show evidence of formation in a vacuum, exposure to solar wind, and a distinct lack of water, features that are simply not found in Earth rocks. It's like finding a seashell on top of Mount Everest. It just doesn't belong there. These rocks are a tangible, testable piece of another world, sitting right here on Earth in labs around the globe. They are a testament to the reality of the Apollo missions and a treasure trove of information about our celestial neighbor. Ever heard of a retroreflector? It's a special mirror that reflects light back to its source. We left several on the moon during the Apollo missions. Scientists use them to measure the Earth-Moon distance with precision. They fire lasers and time the light's return to get accurate measurements. This shows the moon is drifting away from Earth at about 3.8 centimeters per year. These retroreflectors prove the reality of the Apollo missions. Chapter 4. A conspiracy of thousands. The impossibility of silence. Think about the sheer scale of the Apollo program. It involved thousands of scientists, engineers, technicians, and astronauts, all working tirelessly to achieve a common goal. Now, imagine trying to keep a secret that involves thousands of people. It would be virtually impossible. Someone would talk. In fact, leaks happen all the time, even with highly classified information. And yet, in over 50 years since the moon landing, not a single credible witness has come forward with evidence of a hoax. Not a single engineer, not a single technician, not a single janitor who happened to be sweeping up near mission control. The idea that a conspiracy of this magnitude could be kept under wraps for so long is simply not plausible. It would be like trying to keep a stadium full of screaming fans quiet. It's just not going to happen. Chapter 5. Live from the Moon, Telemetry and Broadcasts. Remember those grainy images of Neil Armstrong taking those first steps on the moon? That was live TV, folks. The whole world was watching, captivated by the blurry images being beamed back from the lunar surface. And not just images, mind you. We're talking telemetry data, voice communications, all sorts of technical information being transmitted in real time. Now, imagine trying to fake all of that. It would require technology that was simply not available in the 1960s. Independent tracking stations around the world, including those run by countries that weren't exactly our best buddies at the time, were picking up these signals. They were able to confirm the Apollo spacecraft's trajectory, speed, and location, all independently of NASA. It's like having multiple referees at a sporting event, all confirming the same score. There's no room for doubt. Chapter 6. The World Was Watching. Independent Tracking of Apollo. The moon landing wasn't just an American achievement, it was a global event. The eyes of the world were glued to their televisions, and ears were pressed against radios, listening for every crackle and pop from space. But more importantly, the world was watching in a scientific sense as well. Independent tracking stations across the globe, some operated by nations not exactly on friendly terms with the US at the time, were monitoring the Apollo missions. These stations were tracking the spacecraft's trajectory, speed, and location entirely independently of NASA. If the data from the Apollo missions had been fabricated, these independent stations would have been the first to cry foul. But instead, their data corroborated NASA's findings, providing independent verification of the mission's authenticity. It's like having multiple witnesses to an event, all confirming the same story. Chapter 7. The Van Allen Belts. A radioactive obstacle course. Let's talk about the Van Allen radiation belts. These are two donut-shaped regions of intense radiation that surround Earth, trapped by our planet's magnetic field. They're not exactly the kind of place you want to hang out in for too long. Now, one of the arguments put forth by conspiracy theorists is that the Apollo astronauts would have been fried to a crisp if they had actually flown through these belts. But here's the thing. NASA engineers were well aware of the Van Allen belts and took meticulous precautions to minimize the astronauts' exposure. The Apollo spacecraft followed a carefully calculated trajectory that minimized their time spent within the belts, and the spacecraft themselves were equipped with shielding to protect the crew. It's like driving through a rainstorm with a good set of windshield wipers. You're going to get a little wet, but you're not going to drown. Chapter 8. The Apollo missions brought back a treasure trove of images and videos from the moon, capturing everything from iconic footprints to panoramic lunar landscapes. Conspiracy theorists have had a field day scrutinizing these images, pointing out shadows that seem off or claiming that the lighting looks artificial. But here's what they often fail to consider. Photographing something on the moon is not the same as snapping a selfie on your smartphone. The lunar surface has no atmosphere to scatter light, resulting in harsh shadows and contrasting light conditions. Experts have analyzed these photos and videos extensively, and their findings are clear. The lighting, the shadows, the reflections, all of it is consistent with what we would expect to see on the moon. These images are not just pretty pictures, they are valuable scientific records, meticulously preserved and studied by experts who have debunked the claims of hoaxers time and time again. Chapter 9. The Apollo missions weren't just about planting a flag and coming home. They were about science. Astronauts conducted a wide range of experiments on the lunar surface, from studying the lunar soil to measuring seismic activity. They set up instruments, collected data, and brought back samples that have advanced our understanding of the moon and the solar system. These experiments required specialized equipment and expertise. They weren't just random acts of lunar tourism. They were carefully designed scientific endeavors that yielded invaluable data. For example, the lunar seismometers deployed by the Apollo missions provided crucial data on the moon's internal structure. The results of these experiments have been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals, scrutinized by the international scientific community, and have stood the test of time. Chapter 10. We haven't been back to the moon with humans since 1972, but that doesn't mean we've forgotten about it. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of interest in lunar exploration, with multiple countries and private companies planning future missions. And guess what? These missions are confirming what we already knew. For example, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has captured high-resolution images of the Apollo landing sites, clearly showing the descent stages of the lunar modules, rover tracks, and other equipment left behind by the astronauts. These images provide undeniable visual proof that we were there, and they put to rest any lingering doubts about the authenticity of the Apollo missions. The moon is no longer a distant, unexplored world. It's a place we've been, explored, and learned from. And with continued exploration, who knows what other secrets we'll uncover. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating content. Let us know in the comments what you think about the moon landing and if there are any other topics you'd like us to cover. See you next time.